Welcome to Crime Story with Camila, where we dive deep into the most chilling and mysterious true crime cases. If you love real-life crime stories, make sure to like, subscribe, and share so you never miss an update. Your support helps us bring you the most in-depth investigations and untold stories. In the early hours of a summer morning, a house in Houston, Texas, stood unnaturally quiet. No television, no children laughing, no movement at all, just silence. Inside that house were 5 children, 5 lives that, only hours earlier, had been tucked into bed, kissed goodnight, and prayed over. By the time the sun fully rose, every one of them would be gone. Not taken by an intruder, not claimed by an accident, but drowned, one by one, by their own mother. This was not a crime born from rage. There were no screams for help, no neighbors calling the police. What happened inside that home unfolded quietly, deliberately, as if the house itself was holding its breath. At exactly 9:48 a.m., a phone call was placed to emergency services. The voice on the other end was calm, measured, almost emotionless. "I just kill my children." Those 6 words would fracture a nation. They would ignite debates about faith, mental illness, and responsibility. They would force America to ask an unbearable question. How does a mother come to believe that killing her own children is an act of love? Long before the morning the bathtub filled with water, Andrea Yates was already drowning. Not in guilt, not in anger, but in her own mind. Andrea Yates suffered from severe postpartum depression, a condition that worsened with every pregnancy. After the birth of her 4th child, doctors noticed something alarming. She stopped sleeping. She stopped eating. She stopped speaking. Then came the thoughts. Andrea confessed to medical professionals that she believed she was a bad mother, that she was corrupting her children, that her presence alone was damning them. The diagnosis was clear. Postpartum psychosis, a rare but dangerous mental illness capable of producing hallucinations, delusions, and total breaks from reality. Andrea attempted suicide twice. She was hospitalized, placed under psychiatric care, prescribed powerful antipsychotic medication. Doctors issued a warning that could not have been more direct. Andrea should not have more children, and she should never be left alone with them. But those warnings were slowly drowned out by faith. Andrea's religious beliefs were strict, absolute, and unforgiving. She believed motherhood was her divine purpose, that suffering was God's test, that questioning her role was a sin. She read religious texts obsessively, listened to sermons about judgment and damnation. In her fragile state, faith did not comfort her. It condemned her. Andrea began to believe that her children were born sinful and that she was failing them spiritually. These were not metaphorical fears. She believed hell was real and that her children were headed there. Despite her fragile mental state, Andrea was taken off her medication. Her doctors protested, but the belief that she needed to be present as a mother outweighed medical caution. Her condition deteriorated rapidly. She became withdrawn, mute for long periods, catatonic at times. And still, she became pregnant again. Her 5th child, Mary, was born in 2000. Instead of joy, Andrea sank further into despair. Andrea began to believe something horrifying, that killing her children would save their souls. In her mind, death was not punishment. It was protection. She believed she had already failed them, and that the only way to make things right was to end their lives before they grew older and sinned. These thoughts were spoken aloud. To doctors, to family members. They were documented. And yet, no one stopped what was coming. By the summer of 2001, Andrea was no longer anchored to reality. She was obeying something else entirely. And the closer she came to the edge, the quieter the world around her became. This was not a tragedy without warning. It did not come out of nowhere. It was announced again and again by people trained to see it coming. Doctors wrote it down. Psychiatrists said it plainly. Hospital staff pleaded. Andrea Yates was dangerously ill. One psychiatrist warned that Andrea posed a direct threat, not just to herself, but to her children. Another doctor documented her belief that she was unfit to be a mother, that she feared harming them. The message was clear. Andrea should never be left alone with her children. Despite the warnings, despite the hospitalizations, despite the suicide attempts, Andrea's husband, Rusty Yates, made a choice. He believed faith would heal what medicine could not. He believed structure and prayer would stabilize her mind. He believed God would intervene. Rusty arranged the household so that Andrea was rarely alone. But rarely was not never. On June 20th, 2001, the routine changed. Rusty left for work early that morning. Andrea was alone with the children for the first time in months. A relative was scheduled to arrive later that day. Later, not soon enough. For more than 1 hour, Andrea was completely unsupervised. No medication, no support, no safeguard, just her thoughts. This was not a single failure. It was many. Doctors discharged her too soon. Medication was stopped against advice. Religious counsel replaced psychiatric care. Each decision alone may not have caused the tragedy. Together, they created the perfect conditions for disaster. Andrea had already told people what she feared she might do. She asked for help, and help came, then quietly disappeared. Inside that house, the clock kept ticking. The children played. The bath waited. Outside, the world moved on, unaware that inside a quiet suburban home, 5 lives were moments away from ending. This was the point of no return, and no one was there to stop it. June 20th, 2001. The sun rose like any other morning in Houston, Texas. No sirens, no warning signs. Inside the Yates home, breakfast dishes sat untouched. The children were awake. Andrea Yates was calm. Andrea walked into the bathroom and turned on the faucet. The bathtub began to fill. There was no rush, no hesitation. Investigators would later say her movements were controlled, methodical. She started with the youngest, 6-month-old Mary. Andrea later told police she believed Mary was pure, and that acting quickly would spare her suffering. Mary was placed gently into the water. When it was over, Andrea wrapped her in a towel and laid her on the bed. Then she returned to the bathroom. Next was Luke, just 2 years old. Then Paul, only 3. Then John, 5 years old. Each child was drowned in the same way. After each death, Andrea carried their small bodies to the bedroom, laying them side by side. She straightened the sheets. She folded their hands. There were no signs of panic, only ritual. Noah, the last. 7-year-old Noah was the oldest. He understood something was wrong. When Andrea came for him, he ran. Noah fled through the house, trying to escape his mother. Andrea chased him. She caught him in the bedroom, dragged him to the bathroom, and held him under the water. He fought. He struggled. He was the only one. When it was over, Andrea placed Noah with his siblings. 5 children. Gone. At 9:48 a.m., Andrea Yates picked up the phone. She called emergency services. Her voice was steady, flat. She said, "I need a police officer." Then, "I just kill my children." She called Rusty next. He raced home. Police arrived to a scene of chilling calm. Andrea waited quietly. Inside the bedroom, 5 children lay motionless on the bed. The bathtub was still wet. The house smelled of soap and water. There were no signs of a struggle, no attempt to flee. Andrea did not resist arrest. She told officers she had done what she believed was right. A nation stops. By nightfall, the story was everywhere. A mother, 5 children, 1 bathtub. The country watched in disbelief. And the question everyone asked was the same. How could this happen without anyone stopping it? When Andrea Yates walked into the courtroom, America walked in with her. There were no easy answers. No clean villains. Only questions. And 5 empty graves. Andrea Yates was charged with capital murder, a crime punishable by life in prison or death. Prosecutors argued that Andrea knew exactly what she was doing. They pointed to the order of the killings, the way the children were placed afterward, the calm phone call to police. They said this was not insanity. This was planning. The defense told a different story. They described a woman completely detached from reality. They introduced medical records showing multiple hospitalizations, suicide attempts, diagnoses of severe postpartum psychosis. Doctors testified that Andrea believed killing her children would save them from hell. In her mind, she was not committing murder. She was committing salvation. Outside the courtroom, Americans argued. Some saw Andrea as pure evil. Others saw a broken woman abandoned by the system. Headlines screamed, "Monster Mother," "Failed by medicine," "Faith or madness?" For many families dealing with mental illness, the case felt personal. For others, unforgivable. In 2002, the jury delivered its verdict. Guilty. Andrea Yates was sentenced to life in prison. There were gasps in the courtroom. Some families felt justice had been served. Others felt the system had punished sickness instead of treating it. But the case was not over. A key prosecution expert was later discredited, his testimony proven false. The conviction was overturned. Andrea Yates would face trial again. This time, the jury heard the full weight of the medical evidence. Psychiatrists described a woman in complete psychosis, unable to understand right from wrong. In 2006, the verdict came down. Not guilty by reason of insanity. Andrea Yates was not sent to prison. She was committed to a state mental health hospital, where she remains today. There were no cheers, no relief, just silence, because no verdict, no matter how carefully delivered, could bring back 5 children. The law had spoken, but the debate was far from over. When the trials ended, the cameras moved on. But for those left behind, the story never did. The house where the children died was eventually sold. New families moved in. New laughter replaced old silence. But for neighbors who remembered that morning, the walls would always hold something unseen. A reminder of how quiet tragedy can be. Rusty Yates was left to live with a truth no verdict could erase. He publicly acknowledged his mistakes. He admitted he ignored medical warnings, that he placed faith above treatment, that he believed prayer could cure what medicine warned could not. Rusty later divorced Andrea. He remarried, started another family, but the loss followed him. In every interview, in every silence, Andrea Yates remains confined in a secure mental health facility. She is heavily medicated, closely monitored, largely out of public view. Doctors say she now understands what she did. That awareness is its own kind of sentence. There will be no release into a normal life, only treatment and memory. The Yates case changed how America talked about postpartum illness. It forced hospitals to reconsider discharge practices. It pushed conversations about postpartum psychosis into the public eye. But change came too late for 5 children. Their names are rarely spoken now, but they mattered. The law reached a conclusion. Medicine offered an explanation. But grief does not follow rules. The aftermath of this case is not found in court documents, but in what it revealed about what happens when warnings are ignored, and silence is mistaken for peace. 5 children are gone. No trial, no diagnosis, no explanation can change that. But the question still lingers. Quietly, uncomfortably, could this have been prevented? The warnings were not hidden. They were written, spoken, repeated. Doctors warned that Andrea Yates should never be left alone with her children. Mental health professionals documented her fears, her delusions, her desperation. And yet, the safeguards failed. Faith was meant to comfort. Instead, it became a substitute for treatment. Andrea's illness was not weakness. It was not moral failure. It was not sin. It was a medical emergency, and treating it as anything less proved fatal. This was not one mistake. It was a chain. Discharges made too early. Medication stopped too soon. Warnings softened to avoid discomfort. Each link held, until it didn't. Noah, John, Paul, Luke, Mary. They are not symbols. They are not arguments. They were children. Loved, alive, and deserving of protection. The Yates case is not just a story about a mother. It is a warning about what happens when mental illness is minimized, when faith is used as a cure, when fear of discomfort silences intervention. Prevention does not begin in a courtroom. It begins when warnings are taken seriously, before silence becomes tragedy.
Thanks for watching. For more interesting videos, please subscribe.